We talked about our compressor, vapor pump. We talked about our discharge line, hot gas line. We talked about our condensing coil. So the refrigerant went into the condensing coil in 3 locations, and the refrigerant comes out of the condensing coil as 3 locations. We go back into the very bottom of the condensing coil, and here's where our next component comes together. There's 1 pipe going back in, we got 1 pipe coming out, and this pipe right here is called our liquid line. And luckily it's the only line that has 1 name. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw the line coming out of a condensing coil. We're going to take it all the way across our paper to the other side, and we're going to write over here liquid line. And we're going to draw this in red because it's going to be high pressure. And we're going to add more notes to this later, so don't get hung up and that's the only thing we're going to have. But notice how this line's red. It's not going to be painted red in the field. I painted it so you can see it, and I also drew arrows. So what we're going to do on our drawing is we're also going to add the little arrows so we make sure we know which direction it's flowing. So our refrigerant, though, we also see there's this other component right here. This component is called a liquid line filter dryer. And since it goes on the liquid line, it's officially an accessory, but it's a mandatory accessory. We're going to go ahead and talk about that now. So here I've drawn the arrow so you can see the liquid refrigerant leaving the condensing coil, and it's going into this component. Now this component comes with an arrow already. This is on the tag. So this filter dryer has a direction. In this case, it's flowing away from the condenser towards your next component we're going to show shortly. This liquid line filter dryer can be anywhere on the liquid line. This particular manufacturer put it right here in the outdoor unit. Sometimes you'll see them in the middle, on the line set, somewhere outside of the unit, or even before the metering device inside. But as long as this is on the liquid line, that's okay. Now, several important things about this. Anytime we open the system for any reason, we replace this liquid line filter dryer. It's a very important thing that we have to do and take care of. There's many different styles of liquid line filter dryers, but ultimately its job is to filter the refrigerant. There can be moisture inside a refrigerant. Now, refrigerant itself is a liquid. When we talk about getting moisture out, we're not talking about getting liquids out. We're specifically talking about H2O. So the refrigerant is going to go into our liquid line filter dryer here, and then it goes all the way around on all the different sides. It goes through this rock type material that's porous, and as it's going through this rock type material, it's actually filtering it, and it's pulling out any H2O or moisture. Now we say moisture, it can only handle a very, very small amount, but it's dehydrating it. Think of those little packs you get when you buy something from China that keeps the moisture, keeps it all dry, that desiccant material. This is also that desiccant material. So the refrigerant flows from the outside edges to the very center, then it flows to this little filter material here, and it carries on through the line. This is what we call a solid core, but that's what we have essentially right here. The refrigerant comes in, goes around all the different sides, filters through the material, then to the inside, and continues on flowing. These can get stopped up from time to time, and we can check a temperature drop across these to see if they're clogged up or not. There's a whole lot more information we have about these liquid line filter dryers, and we're going to talk about those in another video. But they also make some that are BB filled, or what we call loose desiccant. And here you see these spring type material. There's a little desiccant material in here, and that's what these little BBs are. It's supposed to be completely full of them, but as I travel through the country and teach in different cities and states, all the BBs have pretty well gone. There's only about 3 left, but there's hundreds of these BBs in here. And these BBs are also that desiccant type material, and that's the same type of material as this. So as it filters the moisture out, it also helps filter some of the contaminants out as that refrigerant continues to flow. Here's another example of this desiccant material. This came out of a commercial unit. This actually fits inside of a canister, but the refrigerant always filters from the outside through this material and then from the inside. I've actually cut it in half so you can see it simply looks like a type of rock, but it absorbs H2O out of the liquid refrigerant. So the liquid refrigerant flows through this material. Now they don't always look like this, and I painted this one red to get you to know it's high pressure, but sometimes they'll look like this. That's it, looking like a hot dog. But this is also has desiccant material inside of here. And you can tell if you tap on it, it sounds solid. So it's very solid inside. If it was hollow, like a muffler, you'd hear an echo sound on it. So a filter dryer can look like this or like this. So we're going to add that note to our system. So in our drawings, we're just going to add anywhere on this liquid line, we're going to put a little box. and we're going to put an arrow on it, and we're going to add the notes liquid, line, filter, dryer. You can always make these notes look nice and clear later. We're going to be redrawing this refrigeration cycle many times. This is just our first go of it. So it's a liquid line filter dryer. That means it goes on the, I always get this confused. Oh yeah, liquid line. So this is the liquid line, anywhere in the liquid line. Now that's important because notice how the discharge line can look very similar to the liquid line. In some cases, people just assume because this line's the same material and the same size as this line that it's the same thing. And I've seen people put liquid line filter dryers on the discharge line. Do not do that. It is horribly bad and bad for the whole system. And here's why. This high temperature, high pressure superheated vapor hits this desiccant material. It starts to cause this desiccant material to come apart and break loose. This desiccant material then travels to the whole system, plugging up the entire system. It's very bad. It also doesn't absorb very much moisture at high temperatures, so as those hot gases are coming through here, it doesn't do anything for actually doing its job. So we want to make sure the liquid line filter dryer goes on the liquid line, and we'll talk more about that later. But this is our liquid line. If we see this port here, this is where we hook our gauges up to. So if we see right here, we have a cap. This particular one, we're going to use our adjustable wrench on this cap, and we loosen this cap. And this is where we're going to screw our gauges on. This is how we get the high pressure to our high pressure gauge. Notice it's a high pressure gauge, and theoretically, high pressure represented by red. This is red. Remember, in the field, they're not always painted, but this is where we connect our red gauge to. This is going to give us the pressure. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on. Let's not get hung up on pressure just yet. But also, this has another cap on it. And since we're here, we're going to pop this cap off real quick. Underneath here, there is a valve. This valve's closed off, but we're going to have a tool that we're going to use in there. And it's going to open and close this valve, tell refrigerant to stop or refrigerant to flow. More on that later. Got to stay tuned. Lots and lots of stuff we're going to talk about. So right now, liquid line filter dryer. And if we were to physically follow this liquid line, let's see where it would go. Here we have our liquid line going all the way to the inside. It's going to go past, there's going to be a panel here. It goes past this panel. If we continue following it, we see that our liquid line here continues around, goes through another type of little filter. This is not a filter dryer, it's just a screen. And then here we have a metering device. So this is our liquid line. It goes all the way to the metering device. Here's another example. We have our liquid line. It's going to go to the inside of the house. Liquid line is going to flow in this direction. It's going to go to our metering device. In this case, it's a thermostatic expansion valve. But either way, our liquid flows to our metering device. So that's our liquid line. It's going to flow from the outside of the house all the way to the inside of the house, non-stop.